Al Pacino says he doesn't remember much of the 70s. So, The Godfather, Serpico, Scarecrow, Dog Day Afternoon, and Justice for All, some of the greatest movies ever, let alone the 1970s, are all a blur to Mr. Al Pacino. But we sure do remember all of these amazing films with all of these amazing performances. But unfortunately, we also remember GIGLI, 88 Minutes, Righteous Kill, and many more. And unfortunately, those horrible movies Al Pacino does remember. Al Pacino is always that guy who goes over the top. Sometimes it results in brilliance, and other times it causes Mr. Pacino to become a parody of himself. But is his legacy strong enough? And is Al Pacino in the middle of another comeback? It's a divisive career, full of ups and downs, and whatever the f*** he was thinking with Jack and Jill. So yeah, let's find out what the f*** happened to Al Pacino.
Burn this.
I'm sorry?
This must never be seen by anyone.
But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Al Pacino, we must begin at the beginning, and the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, New York City, 1940. After struggling for a while, young Al Pacino would eventually make a name for himself in the theater scene. And 1969 was a soft breakout for Pacino, winning a Tony for his Broadway debut, Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? Later that year, he landed his first film, Me, Natalie. Pacino broke through big time in 1971's The Panic in Needle Park, playing a heroin addict in a remarkably jarring performance that's one of the most raw of the new Hollywood era. His performance in The Panic in Needle Park caught the eye of Francis Ford Coppola, who would cast him in The Godfather in 1972, against the wishes of Paramount Studios, who wanted someone like Dustin Hoffman or Robert Redford or Warren Beatty or anybody else but this guy Al Pacino. But Francis Ford Coppola knew that this actor right here was the only man who could bring Michael Corleone to life. We can watch this character grow and truly understand everything about him just by looking at Al Pacino's eyes. This performance earned him his first Oscar nomination, although he boycotted that year's ceremony because he felt like he should have been nominated for Best Actor and not Best Supporting Actor. Take what you can get, Al.
Michael, do you believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth?
I do.
1973 brought a retroactively underappreciated Palme d'Or winner, Scarecrow, opposite Gene Hackman. This is another performance where we get to see a softer, weaker side of Al Pacino, more vulnerable. And it's a beautiful, heartbreaking performance. And showing off his range that same year brought us Serpico, finally getting Al Pacino a Best Actor nomination, and winning a Golden Globe, back when people cared about the Golden Globes. For it, Al Pacino studied the real-life Frank Serpico, and it would later land him on the AFI's list of the 50 greatest heroes. The next year, he returned for The Godfather Part 2, with yet another Best Actor nomination. This time, his performance is much more sinister and complex, and feels like a true completion of this character's story, but unfortunately it wasn't. We just keep pulling him back in. In 1975, Al Pacino would play a bank robber who was robbing a bank to pay for his boyfriend's sex change in Dog Day Afternoon, based on a true story. It's a heated, sweltering performance of unmatched, wild, chaotic energy. His acting is the heart and the soul and everything of this movie. The cameras were dictated by Al Pacino's movements. Wherever he felt like the character needed to go, that's where the cameras would point. It's a brilliant film with yet another amazing performance. He just let everything hang loose out there in this very controversial, very risky character. In 1977, Al Pacino finally had a weak link, playing a race car driver in Bobby Deerfield. Yes, he would earn praise, of course, but it just didn't really live up to the other films that he just made. And a lot of people thought they were just praising Al Pacino because, the critics thought they had to, because he's Al Pacino. More of note, that same year, 1977, Al Pacino won his second Tony. That's like an Oscar for theater nerds, in a play called The Basic Training of Pavlo Hummel. Yeah. In 1979, Al Pacino famously blasted the system as being out of order, earning his fourth Best Actor nomination for a movie called ... and Justice for All. Yes, out of order indeed would be his career, beginning a sort of cool stream in terms of earned recognition. Pacino started out the 1980s with Cruisin', playing a detective going undercover in New York's gay scene. As you could guess, this was another controversial movie. It was actually one of the most controversial movies of the decade or, ever made. Al Pacino is Cruisin'! From 1981 to 1984, Al Pacino returned to the stage for David Mamet's American Buffalo, earning a Drama Desk Award, while also starring as a playwright in a film called Author in 1982, a movie that was, far below him. But then came 1983, which brought Scarface, a project that Al Pacino actively pushed. The movie Scarface is important for numerous reasons. Other than being a fan favorite of rappers and other people who missed the point, it's the first time where, even though this is a great performance, it may be the first time where Al Pacino pushes it a little too much over the top. Because yeah, don't get me wrong, I love this movie and I love Al Pacino as Tony Montana, but his accent, it's freaking ridiculous. But the most damaging up to this point would be 1985's Revolution, an epic dud set in the Revolutionary War, America's Revolutionary War, in case you were confused which war. After the devastating release of Revolution, Al Pacino took 4 years off. That's right, we got a 4-year hiatus from Mr. Pacino. Well, he was still busy working, just not in the movie business, he was in the theater business, appearing in Julius Caesar and various other workshop productions. But in 1989, he did have a welcome return with a movie called Sea of Love. Then came the 1990s, the first year of the 1990s, which was called 1990, and that year of 1990 was the best single year for Al Pacino since, 1973. That's right, it was the year of Dick Tracy, which he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. His performance is perfectly cartoonish, and he was able to mold the character to his and the audience's liking. There too, that same year was The Godfather Part 3, which was apparently worth returning for an $8 million paycheck. And yeah, a lot of people hate this movie, and some people stand up for it. It's alright, I don't know. Yeah. But watch the first two. 1991 saw the film Frankie and Johnny, which reunited him with Michelle Pfeiffer, although both were unfortunately miscast as a cook and a waitress. It's an awkward and thin romance. Not that good. But then came back-to-back home runs in 1992, earning 2 Oscar nominations in the same year. Al Pacino once again nailed the rhythm and the nuances and the grit of David Mamet's dialogue with the film Glengarry Glen Ross, playing a hotshot real estate salesman, and Al Pacino believed in this film so much that he took a pay cut, as a sign of devotion. Then 2 months later, he would play blind Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade in the film Scent of a Woman. Al Pacino's character has the power to smell a woman. He's like, oh yeah, oh, that's a stinky woman, no! Again, showing his devotion to the role by spending time with blind people. It is an easy performance to make fun of, and yet another dip into the over-the-top realm, but it did earn him his first and only to date Academy Award, Best Actor. Although many feel this was kind of like a consolation prize, a participation trophy, a apology award for not giving it to him earlier. But you know what? He deserves it. And you know what? I don't think he gives a f***. In 1993, Al Pacino would return to the gangster drama and work with Brian De Palma again in Carlito's Way. Again, facing criticism for his wishy-washy accent. It's alright. 1995 saw the forgettable film 2 Bits, and 1995 also saw the unforgettable film Heat, in which he finally starred opposite Robert De Niro. Al Pacino was the cop, Robert De Niro was the bank robber. They're so very different, but maybe, deep down, they're actually the same. It's a commanding performance in what stands as one of the finest action movies ever made. Al Pacino sure did bring the heat in Heat. Then the next year was 1996, and we saw the remarkable film City Hall. So yeah, at this time, Al Pacino, he was so hot again. Oh my gosh, this guy's on fire, taking over City Hall and burning it down with his heat. His hot streak would continue when he would bring a top-tier performance against Johnny Depp as a grounded and controlled character, well, for Pacino, in the film Donnie Brasco. Next was the film The Devil's Advocate, for which he would earn an MTV Movie Award nomination for Best Villain, because he's the devil. And yes, it is so devilishly over the top, but this time it actually works in every beat, every way, every scene, every line. That is how you do it. Then came 1999, one of the greatest years for movies ever, and one of the reasons why 1999 was one of the greatest years for movies ever was the movie The Insider, from director Michael Mann, the guy who made Heat. This is about exposing big tobacco. And then Oliver Stone made a movie about exposing big football in the movie Any Given Sunday, where Al Pacino plays a football coach who has plenty of reasons to scream. And yeah, he does it very, very well.
You are not fucking focused!
The next year, Al Pacino would be honored with the Cecil B. DeMille Award for Lifetime Achievement at the Golden Globes. Back when people cared about the Golden Globes. And yeah, it sure does say something that Al Pacino got a Lifetime Achievement Award over 20 years ago, and he hasn't really slowed down yet. He's still got quite a lifetime left to live. But will he spend that life making good movies or bad? Stay tuned to find out. Right now, I'm going to talk about it right now. Then came a new decade, well, a new millennium, and it would be a strange one for Mr. Pacino. A strange decade and a strange millennium. Starting in the year 2000, each year he would bounce back and forth between worthy cinematic achievements of acclaim and some pretty gosh darn awful cash grabs. 2002 brought the truly remarkable Christopher Nolan film Insomnia, but there was also a film called People I Know, and a kinda disappointing satire on Hollywood and artificial intelligence called Simone. 2003 saw the pretty okay film The Recruit, but that same year also saw GIGLI, which I don't know if you know what GIGLI is, but at the time everyone called it the worst film of all time. And Al Pacino is in it, but apparently he's only in it for like one scene as a favor to the director. It's the director of Scent of a Woman. But even though Al Pacino's only in GIGLI for one scene, his name is still attached to it. And I still remember him being in it, and being horrible in it.
You don't fuck around!
But then, right after GIGLI came Angels in America, which earned him a Golden Globe and his first Emmy. And this is undoubtedly one of his best performances. So yeah, he can go from GIGLI to Angels in America in just like the blink of an eye. So it's like, we don't know what to do with you, Al Pacino. What do you do? Are you in good movies or bad, or what? Or you're just in all movies? Then came 2004's The Merchant of Venice, and 2005's Two for the Money. Both were, forgettable. But then the American Film Institute, AFI, bestowed him their own Lifetime Achievement Award. But his lifetime wasn't done yet! So yeah, Al Pacino, he has like an Oscar and some Lifetime Achievement Awards. What's he gonna do next? Well, he's gonna do some garbage. Even earning a Razzie for the film 88 Minutes. And he would even show up in the slightly disappointing Ocean's 13, which would have seemed like a good get if the movie was, worth anything. It could have been something. But then, next, Al Pacino would team up with Robert De Niro in a movie that you think would have been awesome, but it wasn't. It was a movie called Righteous Kill. And yeah, it did not capture the fire of Heat. It was really disappointing. You're like, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in the same movie. That means the movie has to be good no matter what, but apparently, it needed some more. So then, in 2010, he went back to HBO and did his HBO thing, which, was some good TV acting that got him lots of awards, like Emmys and Golden Globes, and a SAG award. Playing another controversial character, this time, Dr. Death. That's right, Jack Kevorkian in You Don't Know Jack. Giving a remarkable performance that was his best TV work yet, I believe, in my humble opinions, and my opinions are always humble! And of course, there was Jack and Jill. Which I get what he was trying to do here. He was playing himself, Al Pacino, as Al Pacino. And, he was doing his thing. He's like, look at me, I'm in an Adam Sandler movie, and see, I have a sense of humor about myself. Isn't that funny? And you know what? It wasn't. He did play a similar character in Stand Up Guys in 2012, so that was better. While the next year he would again nail that David Mamet dialogue with Phil Spector, playing the controversial, legendary titan of music, which got him some Emmy, Golden Globe, and SAG nominations. Much deserved. It would seem like the television miniseries is where Al Pacino would really thrive at this time, and he probably should have just stayed there. In 2014, it was like he was starting to come to terms with where he was both in his life and career, with a likable turn in the disappointing film called Manglehorn, and playing an actor who is not relevant anymore in a film called The Humbling. Then he would play an aging musician who has to come to terms with his decisions in life in a film called Danny Collins. But I don't know, these just weren't characters that we wanted to see Al Pacino play, I guess. Then came the dreadful film called Misconduct in 2016. There was a detective movie called Hangman that I forgot about, and he played a journalist in another movie I forgot about, The Pirates of Somalia.
Condom needs somebody on his side! All of Somalia needs somebody on their side!
The movies just weren't sticking, they just weren't having a pop cultural impact on the zeitgeist. Or whatever those words mean. So yeah, in 2018, Al Pacino went back to HBO, where he would always make magic, and played the disgraced Penn State coach Joe Paterno in Paterno. This is undeniably his most nuanced and human performance in years. Just when we were starting to doubt Al Pacino, just when we thought that his time was over, he shows us that he still got it. And yeah, from there, he gave a joyous and lively performance in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, He's a small part of an amazing ensemble cast, and Tarantino places him in a role that is absolutely perfect. A strong, supporting character that respects his legacy, but doesn't push him or make fun of him or try too hard to homage his past filmography. It's just like, hey, look, here's a really good legendary actor who still got it, and Quentin Tarantino just wanted to remind us.
All the shooting. I love that stuff, you know, the killing.
A lot of killing.
Another filmmaker who wanted to remind us that Al Pacino still gots it is Martin Scorsese, who actually had never worked with Al Pacino until very recently, when he cast Mr. Pacino as Mr. Hoffa. Mr. Jimmy Hoffa, that is. And even though Al Pacino looks nothing like Jimmy Hoffa, like at all, he still captured the spirit of that man, I think. I never met him. But yeah, for the first time in almost 3 decades, we got to see Al Pacino give an Oscar-nominated performance. Well deserved, Mr. Irishman. And yeah, here we are in what seems like an Al Pacino renaissance. A Pacino-sance. Because he's doing an amazing job hunting down Nazis in Amazon series Hunters, and he's freaking crushing it as Gucci in The House of Gucci, and more. The dude is in his 80s, and he's not showing any sign of slowing down on the screen, or any sign of slowing down off the screen, as he recently got his 29-year-old girlfriend pregnant, which will make Al Pacino one of the oldest fathers in recorded history. So pretty soon, Al Pacino's gonna be all like, "Say hello to my little baby!" But yeah, pretty much like Michael Corleone, he entered this industry with the best of intentions and ended up becoming the Godfather, and a really old father. And I believe that the best and the worst thing about Al Pacino is that he can be in things like You Don't Know Jack, and things like Jack and Jill. It's a beautiful thing. So nobody should give a fuck about what the fuck happened to Al Pacino, because he's doing just fine.
Hoo-ah!